Hello, everybody, and welcome into the October edition of our Caregiver Conversation series here at Carellel. This is actually the second edition of October, so we snuck a bonus episode in there. Matt Perrin back with you, Director of Caregiver Engagement for Carellel, and really looking forward to this conversation today. I guess as I always am, but I really struggled when I was caregiving with the sort of unique flavor of caregiving stress that the holidays brought. So really looking forward to talking today with my colleagues, Jennifer Piscitello and Candice Holloway. Hey guys.
Hello.
How's it going?
Going well.
Great.
All right, good. I'll take, a little more enthusiasm here as we go along, but so Jennifer is probably a familiar face to the audience. She leads our care advocate team here at Carellel, and Candice is a relatively new member of our team. Not that new anymore, Candice. It's been a minute. All right. And Candice is she's a gerontologist by training and a care advocate here at Carellel. So thank you both for being here. A little bit of housekeeping per usual. If you're joining one of these sessions for the first time, thank you. Glad you're here. We're Carellel. We make caregiving easier by two sort of primary mechanisms. First and foremost, with our caregiver support line, where we provide one-on-one personalized support, assistance, guidance on whatever might be on your plate as a caregiver. And we do that over the phone, email, or chat. And then we complement that one-on-one support with My Care Desk by Carellel, which is our digital platform. I like to say it's a one-stop digital shop for all things caregiving. You can read helpful informational articles, watch videos, take advantage of practical tools and tip sheets, stuff like that. So, and we make the service available through health plans and employers nationwide. So if you're unsure whether or not you have access to the service, ask your employer or ask your health plan, or you can reply to me. I'll reply to your registration email, and I'll certainly be glad to help you out. Second piece of housekeeping. These are conversations by design. Would love to hear from you. If you have, particularly today in a conversation like this, where we're really talking about tips to manage holiday stress, if you have things that have worked for you, questions, comments, anything at all, please do share. You can use the chat icon down at the bottom of the screen, or the Q&A icon. Excuse me, I'm still getting used to our new conversation platform here. So I think that's it for housekeeping, guys. Did I miss anything?
Right on, as usual.
Okay. So today, holiday stress. I know it's not Halloween yet. I was telling one of my kids the other day that I had this event today, and they're like, well, Dad, it's not Halloween. What are you doing? And so point taken. However, holidays will be here before we know it. And as Jen, you said, as we were sort of preparing for this conversation, it's now's the time to prepare, right? And maybe prepare might be overstating it, but it does help, like in so much of caregiving, to sort of step back and as best we can try and be thoughtful in our approach, so that we don't get burned out and stressed out, or we at least limit the amounts that we get burnt and stressed. So Candice, your first time on this show. I like to call it a show, but we try and stay super practical. So today that means we're going to level set on sort of what kind of makes the holidays so uniquely stressful, I guess, while we're caring for someone else. And then we're going to spend the most of the time on practical tips that anybody can use. So that's the plan. Sound good?
Sounds great.
That's awesome.
Okay, let's do it. So I guess open question to both of you. And what, from your perspective, what is it about the combination of caring for someone that we love and the holidays that sort of results in this, for me anyway, when I was in it, really unique, sort of kind of intense stress? What is it? What is it about that concoction?
Unrealistic expectations, I would say. you have to realize that you now are a caregiver, or you've been caregiving, and now we have this Thanksgiving, or we have Christmas. We have these big holidays, and we're still trying to function as if we're not a caregiver. Because I come from a big family, and I remember my mother will still try to have this huge family and friends drop in with all types of foods and all types of soups and desserts, and she would do it by herself. But now when you enter in that caregiving role, you can't have that same expectation that I can do this by myself. So I think that's what a lot of the stress comes from during the holidays for a lot of caregivers, still having those unrealistic expectations that you can still do all the things that you used to do on the same level.
Love it. And I love the way you boiled it down so succinctly, Candice. Thank you for that. What about you, Jen? Any thoughts on sort of
I think going into the holiday season always, for me, brings up all the family dynamics. And then, as Candice was saying, you pair that with a caregiving situation and the weight and the stress of what you have in order to make sure that that individual that you're caring for's needs are met. But then you have all this other noise from family history, family dynamics, expectations, like Candice was just talking about, and you just throw that all into a pot, and you've got stress right out of the gate. And so that
Bubbling
I think
over.
is, yes.
Yeah. I totally agree. And like often happens in these conversations, the theme, regardless of the topic that we're talking about, there are these common themes, right, that sort of appear again and again and again. And family dynamics certainly is one of those common themes, but so is an expectation. So I really love that you brought that up, Candice, because if I were doing a retrospective on my own personal experience, I think I would probably boil it down to expectations, and not adjusting mine as my life was changing, right, as mom was changing. So I love
That's
that.
hard to do.
No, it is, especially in a vacuum, right? And if like, as we know, there are millions of people across the country who are caring for a loved one, yet only a fraction of them, I don't have the exact data on the top of my head, but a fraction of them I actually see themselves as a caregiver. And that was me for the first 3 or 4 years. So when you're not seeing yourself that way, you're less likely to, it's just a cascading effect. And one of those cascading effects in my case was an inability to see that I needed to reset my expectations as things were changing. So Candice will join us shortly. She'll come back. How about that? Having that experience, Jen, for her first time joining us on this program. But let's dive into the tips, right? Because I think while it is helpful to level set on the challenges, I think if people have joined this conversation today, chances are more than high, maybe, that they are in a caregiving situation, and that they've felt, at least periodically, this unique brand of holiday stress. So let's talk about the tips. So one, and we have a list here, and we can sort of go back and forth, but we were kind of alluding to, or you were, Jen, and maybe I was reading too deeply into what you were saying a minute ago, but this whole notion of giving ourselves permission, right, to let go of the past, right? That would be a tip that to me would have come in really, really handy. And I wish I learned how to do it as time went on, but I wish I did sooner. What do you think about that tip?
I think it's an important tip, and it's also not a very easy thing to do. I think we're all pretty much creatures of habit and creatures of culture and like tradition and things like that. And especially when the holidays come up, it's like it's like an automatic, like, path that we sort of like get on. And I think that's why it's so important and awesome that those of you who are here today are paying attention to this now. So you are in a much better position to be able to get off that track if that's not the right track for you to be on, right? And it is challenging to sort of shift and still hold on to some things that are really important to you in your traditions and your culture and your expectations and things like that. But how can you modify it so that you can still have that end result of whatever it is, but in a way that is manageable for you and the loved one that you're caring for? And so that is really where, you know, giving yourself permission to let go of the past, but get creative in ways that you can either forge a new tradition. Not a bad idea, although it is sometimes hard to get everybody on board to, you know, start something totally new. But this is why the work is being done now, so you can kind of think about that, maybe have some sidebar conversations about that, and be able to, you know, move forward in a way that's going to be beneficial to you and to your loved one that you're caring for.
Yeah, I love that, and a lot of these tips are related, so I don't want to give away some other tips that we're talking about, because you were just hitting on a lot of gold in there, Jen. But it starts, to your point, with giving ourselves permission to think differently a little bit, right? And something in particular that you said sort of dovetails nicely into the next tip that I wanted to bring up. And when you mentioned sidebar conversations, right? And setting expectations in advance. This was a game changer for me. And I didn't have a big family, Candice, but you know, we got together at my uncle's house every year, and there were a bunch of us there. Some loaded family dynamics, I guess you could say. And it was what people were going to say, admittedly, most of the time, sort of from a well-meaning place. That just really was my biggest stressor. The logistics and all of that were stressful, of course, but it was the fear of what people were going to say, the comments, whether it be direct or indirect. Just that was my main stressor, as you know, a person caring for my mom who was living with dementia. So setting expectations in advance, sending an email in advance or a text message. If in my case it was an email, and I just laid out everything, right? What people could, it's been a little while since you've seen mom, what people can expect everything from her physical appearance, how her condition had changed. I maybe had her looking a little bit differently, her demeanor, what was that like at that particular stage? What she could eat, what she enjoyed eating, what she couldn't, what she didn't. Even tips, and you know, as time went on positive ways to approach her physically and speak with her. You know, not approaching from the back, approach from an angle, set yourself to the angle, like all of that stuff, right? And it really actually helped, believe it or not, much to my surprise. When the first time I did it, I was thinking my Aunt Evelyn is never going to listen. Never mind read this email. She's not going to listen, right? So setting expectations in advance is sort of my favorite tip of them all. We should have made it last. I like it that much. But what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I'm totally in agreement with that. I wish we would have done an email,
Yeah.
but we actually had these phone conversations based on past holiday experiences. You know, so as my grandmother's dementia progressed, of course, her behaviors were a bit different. Things that she remembered before, she didn't remember anymore. Foods that she liked before, she didn't like anymore. And a lot of times her sisters would say, you know, you like that. You don't remember me. You don't remember that.
Yeah.
And so that prepares you for the next year. You want to be proactive and have that discussion. Hey, mom is going through a lot of changes, or my loved one is going through a lot of changes. This is what's going on. This is what you should expect. If she doesn't remember you, or you're trying to make her remember something, please don't. She may not remember it. And don't be upset if she does not remember it. because all that's going to do is put more stress on your loved one, the one with the dementia, Alzheimer's, or anyone else. It's just going to put more stress on them, and then they're going to be they're going to feel uncomfortable, or their behaviors may change within, during that time in the holidays. And then as a caregiver, that's put everything on me then.
Yeah.
Because I have to deal with all of it.
Right. Yeah. You have to deal with it. And some of it from my part was selfish. Like I literally, I came to dread, weeks before Christmas Eve in our family, when this get together would happen, I would dread what I was going to hear. So I got very detailed. I was taught, I would put some of the things you're talking about, Candice, in the email. Don't ask mom if she remembers this or that. She just, her brain has changed. She doesn't have those skills any longer to retrieve that memory. And it's no good's going to come of it. So just please don't do it. Right. But like, and the email worked for me just because it was easier than texting. And I honestly, this isn't going to sound right, but I didn't want to have a conversation about it. I wanted to make my position clear without emotion. An email for me was the best channel to do that. But yeah, so to the extent that you can, highly recommend setting expectations in advance, whether, as it says, Jen says, a sidebar conversation with family, friends, whomever, or an email or a text message. It's worth it. It was for me anyway. So Jen, how about so the third tip I want to talk about is and you were kind of alluding to this, but simplifying, right? And this sort of falls in the category of things we need to give ourselves permission to do, but simplifying the activities, right? What are your thoughts on that as a tip that can really make a difference?
Yeah, I think it's super helpful. And again, those of us who are rooted in tradition, it's going to be hard for you to say, order turkey dinner from the local restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what? I make everything from scratch. I'm not ordering. So that, some of those things might allow you to refocus on what's most important. And it's a good time to have that sort of conversation with yourself. Like, what is really most important? Like, are you truly like, this is like, you're a foodie and this is your holiday and that's what's most important? Okay, then maybe making sure you have other things in place to manage the care of your loved one, so that you can have this moment for yourself and put out the meal that you are envisioning. If you're more interested about having that connection with people and having everybody around the table, then maybe Thanksgiving dinner is the week after. Maybe it's not on Thanksgiving. So it could be a variety of different things, but I think if you get yourself zeroed in on what's most important and then allow yourself to think outside of the box or talk to somebody, that one person that is an outside of the box thinker, have them have them help you kind of think outside the box in the way that you can simplify things to get what you want out of the holiday, whether it's whatever holiday it is. Yeah.
I'm so glad you gave the detail that you did there, Jen, because and this was a challenge for me, but simplifying could there's an element of creativity to it, right? And there's an element of as you said, well, this is one of the other tips, but sort of staying grounded in what really is most important to you, into your family. But I just had a kind of a myopic way of thinking. I didn't have the ability to sort of expand the options, but I love how you just described, well, if actually making the meal and putting out, doing the table and all of that is most important, then find a way to get coverage so that you can do that. I just love that. My mind wouldn't have gone there. It would have gone to order out or cut the menu in half instead of other things. So thank you.
Yeah. And for
that.
some people that it really is this sort of like masterpiece of a meal. Because honestly,
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving, it really is all about, it's really about the food. There's no gifts. There's no like, games or, I mean, I guess you could come up with some, but, so some people have a really, difficult time sort of letting go of that, and allowing it to be more about, the relationship. But it's okay to be honest with yourself. Like if you really are looking forward to this, like a good traditional Thanksgiving meal, then allow yourself to, have that and work around it differently as far as simplifying other things, like getting things, set up, or how to, manage the time that you need to be able to do that and things of that nature.
Yeah, I love that. So thank you for that, Jen. Candice, can you expand a little bit on something that Jen was talking about, which is this staying grounded in what's most important? Because it feels like there's a loaded aspect to that, right? Jen, you talk about like being honest with yourself, but also being honest with the other people in the family, right? Like there's just it feels loaded. Like how do we do that in practice? Like it feels like it's one of those easy things to say, but it's harder to do. So how do we actually stay grounded in how do we figure out what's most important in some cases, and then like actually stay true to it?
You're absolutely right, Matt, and I'm in totally agreement with you, Jennifer. You have to be honest with yourself as a caregiver. You have to really sit there and think, what am I capable of doing?
Capable, yes.
What am I capable of doing? And what is most important? Yes, it's the holiday, but I have my loved one here. I'm caring for her. So do I want this grandiose menu, this smorgasbord of food? And do I want to be stressed about that? And then also stressed about mom, dad, or whomever. So again, you have to be very much have that self-talk with yourself. What am I actually capable of doing? What can I do? And what should I do moving forward? So that could be hiring someone. If you want this huge meal, this traditional meal, hiring a care aide for a few hours to assist with mom, dad, while you cook this dinner. Or or even ask for help,
Yeah, right.
instead of cooking everything, ask family members, well, I'm going to do this turkey and I'll do the stuffing, the dressing. Hey, sister, brother, aunt, whomever, can you assist me with this?
Yeah, I love that. And now do it now, like in advance, right? Yeah. So
Right.
because we ran into this, just in advance helps.
Yeah, because I think it's very easy for you to like be in the moment in what you're doing every day, and the caregiving, is unpredictable. You don't know what's around the corner. Next thing you know, it's the week of Christmas, and that's stress in and of itself, because you haven't prepared maybe as you wanted to, or and things may not go the way you want them to. But it is having that conversation now and thinking about it now, knowing that your everyday is very unpredictable as a caregiver.
Yeah. I'm just keeping an eye on the clock, and we got about 5 minutes left. And one thing that it's not necessarily a tip, not necessarily a tangible tip about preparing or manage, but it is directly related, in my opinion, to managing stress. And it's, while the holidays, we often come together, and we haven't seen each other in a long time, and it is observations are made, right, based on changes. But like, is it the time to have the big talk about name your caregiving topic, mom and dad or your spouse needing help at home, or moving to a more supportive environment, or whatever big thing is on the horizon potentially? Are the holiday get-togethers the time to have that talk?
I'm going to say no. It's not. It's there may be sidebar conversations, pre-conversations leading into the holidays, or in between the holidays where you've observed something, it's not the time to, hey, can you pass the turkey? By the way, we're moving you into a memory care next week. That's not how that conversation is gonna, really unfold peacefully. So really, using those interactions or those gatherings as time for you to observe. And again, this is why it's so great that you're on this webinar, listening to this webinar now, so that you are prepared for, what am I looking for? What things should I be talking about afterwards, or things of that nature. But it is not the time, in my opinion, to bring it up. Those might not be the most memorable meals in a negative, may end up being the most memorable meals in a less than positive way.
Right. So I agree. I just wanted to tee up the question, and a lot of the audience agrees. I've seen a number of affirmations there in the Q&A, but so yeah, it's tempting. Sometimes
you should be prepared for somebody who might not be on the same page as you.
We're on the same, we're on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
So, and this is, going back to my comment earlier around so many of the themes that we talk about in any situation come up, but disengage, and I had a couple of members, love them dearly, a couple of family members who just couldn't read the room at all, and would pick the most inopportune times to approach these topics. And thankfully I learned to disengage and walk away. So I have okay, so I have a comment. I think it's just a comment, I don't see a question. But what to do when a family member is always late for an event? We walked out of Thanksgiving dinner and had dinner at Denny's. I like Denny's. I don't, it's just family dynamics, our family dynamics, and that's why we've done so many sessions on family dynamics specifically.
They always exist, always.
Yeah, and I guess it's not easy, but most roads lead back to just giving ourselves and family members grace as much as we can, is what I would say to that. But I see someone with their hand raised, and I'm not able to click and get to you. So if there is a question as we're wrapping up, please do drop it in the chat. If I'm not able to address it before we sign off, I will after the session. So we're at time. Any final thoughts, Jen, Candice, on people coming up to the holidays here?
I think that it's great that I know I feel like a broken record, but it's great that you're thinking about this now, you're preparing for this now. That really demonstrates so much love and support for yourself and for your loved ones, so that you can approach this busy time of year in a way that is going to be meaningful, and as it's doesn't have to be overly stressful, and with preparations and whatnot, you can certainly try to head off some of that unnecessary extra stress.
Agreed, Jen. What about you, Candice?
Also, as a caregiver, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And as I stated, be realistic about the situation.
Yeah.
I understand that we want to do things as we've done in the past, but it's okay, again, to modify it a bit, to adhere to your needs. And again, you're adhering to your needs and everybody else is still enjoying themselves. So again, be realistic about the expectation and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And mine's related, which is just you're doing the best you can. Give yourself grace. Stephanie, who joins us on these sessions, that's a go-to phrase for her, and I'm buying, because it's true. So I just put in the chat, I put a link to our Caregiver Conversation series schedule on our website, carellel.com. Next session is on November 30th. We'll be celebrating our caregiving wins, which is a super sneaky important thing for us to do as caregivers.
Yes.
So that'll be November 30th, and December 20th. I'm super excited about this one. Jeff Rubin, who is Carellel's Chief Clinical Officer, Dr. Jeff Rubin will be leading a guided meditation. That's what we'll be using the Caregiver Conversation time for, a guided meditation live on December 20th. So the links to register are on the schedule.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, sorry, I just
Exciting.
got to thank you. Our pleasure. Thank you all for being here. On that schedule, though, there are replays of the last year and a half of these conversations, so you could find the videos right there as well. Jen, Candice, thanks so much for joining us. Candice, you got your first one out of the way. You're going to be a regular contributor now. Be careful what you wish for. And audience, thank you guys for being here. Wish you the best until we talk again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everybody.